Let's get into it, shall we? Brittney Griner throwing elbows at Caitlin Clark. Brittney Griner shoving Caitlin Clark. Brittney Griner just can't help herself. She has periods throughout the game where she just acts aggressively.
Watch Brittney Griner's elbow extend. Watch how it connects with Caitlin Clark's face. Watch the officials do absolutely nothing. This isn't basketball anymore. This is what happens when a league secures its media deal, and suddenly the incentive to protect its biggest star evaporates overnight. The Indiana Fever barely escaped with a win against the Phoenix Mercury last night, but the real story isn't the final score. It's what happened to Caitlin Clark on the court, and more importantly, what didn't happen afterward.
Ooh. Brittney put a little extra in that. A little extra elbow in that. A little extra lean in that. A little extra, I'm going to make you feel it in that. Folks, you look at the still of this. Yeesh. You see you look at the still, you see Brittney Griner's elbow extending. You see Brittney Griner's elbow extending.
That still frame tells you everything you need to know. Griner's elbow is fully extended. The contact is deliberate. The lean-in is intentional. And yet somehow, this wasn't called a moving screen. Compare that to what happened when Caitlin Clark set a similar screen against Dearica Hamby of the Los Angeles Sparks earlier this season. The officials nearly ejected her for a play that had half the contact we just witnessed. The inconsistency isn't just frustrating, it's dangerous. Here's what makes this particularly egregious. Brittney Griner is 7 feet tall. Caitlin Clark is 6 feet. When a 7-footer extends their elbow into the face of someone a foot shorter, that's not incidental contact, that's a choice. And the fact that it happened multiple times in the same game, that's a pattern.
Should have been a flagrant one. Shoulder out, intentional lean into the face. Multiple camera angles showing she leaned into it and extending her shoulder into her face. You better submit an elevation for this. Something tells me the Indiana Fever aren't going to submit anything for this. Shout out to IDX Texas. Texas salute, bro. Because it's the W, where freedom of movement only applies to everyone not named Aaliyah Boston or Caitlin Clark. The coach should have gotten a technical foul on that because, again, she's not protecting her fucking play. Yep, Stephanie White. Stephanie White just allows this to happen repeatedly.
Nothing about that sequence is a basketball play. Griner runs through Clark, makes full body contact, and somehow the foul gets called on Caitlin. The absurdity would be comical if it weren't so blatant. This is the WNBA's officiating in 2024. After they secured a 12-year media rights deal worth $2.2 billion. After they negotiated a new CBA that dramatically increased player salaries. After Caitlin Clark brought 3.4 million viewers to regular season games and drove attendance up 48% league-wide. The message being sent is crystal clear. The league got what it needed from the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. The deals are signed, the money is guaranteed, and now there's zero incentive to protect her. In fact, there's incentive to let the veterans remind her exactly where she stands in the pecking order.
Day in and day out. Man shouldn't be allowed to play in women's sports. Damn. Dirty ass man playing in the W. Should have just left his stupid ass in Russian jail. God damn. All Steph White did was scream at Cece to get up. She never protects her players or...
Back-to-back physical plays. Back-to-back non-calls. And Brittney Griner stays in the game without even a warning. Let's talk about what a flagrant foul actually is according to WNBA rules. It's defined as unnecessary and excessive contact. The rulebook specifically mentions contact to the head and face as automatic flagrant consideration. The officials are supposed to review any play where there's a question of intent. None of that happened. Griner threw an elbow that connected with Clark's face. The replay showed the extension. The still frames showed the contact. And the officials kept their whistles silent. Meanwhile, Stephanie White, the Fever's head coach, stood on the sideline and did nothing. Didn't argue, didn't demand a review, didn't even approach the officials to ask for an explanation.
Nothing about this is a basketball play. There is absolutely zero basketball play in this. Foul on Caitlin Clark. Wow.
The comments from fans aren't wrong. Stephanie White's response to seeing her star player take an elbow to the face was to yell at Caitlin to get up, not to protect her, not to confront the officials, not to demand accountability. Just get up and keep playing. This has been the pattern all season long. Remember when Angel Reese hip-checked Clark in June? White said nothing. When Chennedy Carter body-checked her away from the ball, White called it part of basketball. When Alyssa Thomas repeatedly targeted her in the playoffs, White talked about toughness and physicality. At what point does a coach's refusal to protect their best player cross the line from strategy to negligence? The Fever had every right to submit this play for review to the league office. Teams can request escalation of plays they believe warrant additional discipline. The league office reviews the footage and can upgrade non-calls to flagrant fouls retroactively, which results in fines and potential suspensions. The Fever didn't submit anything. They let it go. Again.
Talking about the speculation about division within the team, Steph White adds, if we're going to continue to create news from fans on social media or bots on social media or whatever it may be, then that's a problem. Teams that don't have division on them, within them, don't have 2-hour meetings. Number one. Stephanie White. The people that are creating news from fans, from these damn YouTubers, from damn people on Twitter, the people that are creating news from that are the same losers that you give credentials in that room with you right now. The same people that have credentials to cover this talk about the social media drama.
Now let's address Stephanie White's comments about social media and bots creating division within the team. She's deflecting. The people reporting on internal Fever drama aren't random Twitter accounts. They're credentialed journalists with direct sources inside the organization. Dan Dakich, who's been covering Indiana basketball for decades, has reported multiple times about tension between coaching staff and front office regarding how Caitlin is being utilized and protected. Where is Dakich getting that information? He's getting it from Lynn Dunn, the Fever's former general manager who still has significant influence in the organization. He's getting it from Kelly Krauskopf, who built the Fever before leaving for the Pacers and recently returned. He's getting it from people inside the building who are watching what's happening to their franchise player and are frustrated by the lack of institutional support. White wants to blame YouTubers and social media for creating narratives about team dysfunction. But here's the reality. Teams that don't have internal division don't hold 2-hour players-only meetings in the middle of a playoff push. Teams without problems don't have their star player visibly frustrated on the bench. Teams with good chemistry don't have body language like we saw throughout that Mercury game. The division isn't coming from outside the building. It's coming from inside. And blaming fans for noticing it is insulting to everyone's intelligence.
Social media news, the conspiracy theories, if you will. The people in the room with you right now talk about that. You're not coming at me. You're not coming at me. You're coming at the people in the room with you. C-Rat Sahohi? Sorry. She literally wrote an entire article about YouTubers. That's real journalism right there. Annie Costabile? All these people, right?
The broader context here matters. The WNBA just completed negotiations on 2 massive deals. The media rights package with ESPN, Amazon, and NBC is worth $2.2 billion over 12 years. That's $183 million per year, compared to the previous deal that paid $50 million annually. It's a generational leap in revenue. The new CBA, ratified in January 2024, eliminated the salary cap and introduced a revenue-sharing model where players receive 50% of league revenue once certain thresholds are met. Top players like Aja Wilson and Breanna Stewart are now making over $200,000 in base salary, with additional money from marketing agreements and playoff bonuses pushing total compensation over $500,000. All of this happened because Caitlin Clark brought unprecedented attention to the league. Her rookie season generated more media coverage than the previous 5 years combined. Her games averaged over 1 million viewers on ESPN. The Fever went from playing in mostly empty arenas to selling out every road game. The economic impact is measurable and undeniable.
But it seemed like maybe there might have been a situation on the sideline at one point between you two. And it's funny because even after that fact, you're the leading scorer on the team. So, and then there's
Today?
Huh?
Today?
Yeah, maybe you scored at 20 something.
Oh, okay.
She put the dagger, but you let the.
But what's sideline?
But the point I'm making is that there's reports that it's like the team, there's a division in the team.
No,
but clearly when you see on the court and
we're on
the scoreboard, it's far from that. So
You know where a lot of that division's coming from? Inside.
So what happens now that the deals are done? What happens when the league has already secured the bag and the pressure to maintain the Caitlin Clark momentum disappears? We're seeing it play out in real time. The officials let veterans take liberties with her. The league office declines to discipline obvious flagrant contact. Her own coach refuses to advocate for her protection. And the media that spent all summer writing puff pieces about WNBA growth suddenly goes quiet when the league's biggest star is getting targeted. The calculation is simple. The WNBA needed Caitlin Clark to leverage a better media deal. They got it. They needed her to drive CBA negotiations. They got it. They needed her to prove the league could generate mainstream interest. She did it. Now the veterans who resented her from day one get to remind her that she's still a rookie in their league, regardless of what she's done for their paychecks. Brittney Griner is the perfect example of this dynamic. Griner has been in the league since 2013. She's won a championship, multiple Olympic gold medals, and was the face of the league during her detention in Russia. When she returned, the WNBA and its media partners treated her like a hero. She got standing ovations. She got tribute videos. She got softball interviews where nobody asked hard questions. And now she's throwing elbows at Caitlin Clark's face with impunity.
Inside your own building.
I mean, please do.
Speculation.
Yeah, speculation. Yes.
I don't know about reports.
I think you're talking about. I don't think you're talking about journalism.
Correct.
And so, if we're going to continue to create news from fans on social media or bots on social media or whatever it may be, then that's a problem, right? I think legitimate news sources need to report legitimate news. I like.
Yeah, well, the only legitimate news source that reported legitimate news, you guys took away his credentials.
The comments about Griner in the transcript are harsh, but they reflect genuine frustration from fans who watched the league bend over backward to bring her home from Russia, only to watch her target the player who saved their economic future. Whether you agree with the sentiment or not, the underlying point stands. Brittney Griner is being allowed to play physical basketball that crosses the line into dangerous, and the officials are letting it happen. This isn't about one play. It's about a pattern. Griner had multiple physical encounters with Clark throughout that game. The elbow to the face, the moving screen, the body contact away from the ball. None of it was called. All of it was intentional. And the message was received loud and clear by everyone watching. The WNBA has a Caitlin Clark problem, but it's not the problem they think it is. The problem isn't that she's too popular, or that she's getting too much attention. The problem is that the league doesn't know how to reconcile her value to their business with the cultural resistance from players who resent her success. So they're trying to have it both ways. They'll market her face on every promotional material. They'll tout the ratings she generates. They'll cash the checks her popularity creates, but they won't protect her on the court.
Remember that? You guys stripped his credentials. Now you got the Three Musketeers and the Stooges asking you questions at press conferences. But speaking of division within the team, Stephanie, you know who's giving you a lot of that division? Who's reporting that? Dan Dockich. Do you know where he's getting that news from? Inside the building. He's getting that news from Lynn Dunn. He's getting that news from Kelly Krauskopf. He's getting that news from Amber Cox. And we're talking about it. If you can't handle that, if you don't like that, well, maybe you need to talk to your higher-ups. Grow some cojones. Talk to your higher-ups and say, hey, why are you feeding all this information to people not involved with the team? Spooky hours. Spooky, spooky, spooky hours. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate everybody who reached out to me. Roseish, John the Locator, Rudy, Kate. Appreciate y'all. We're back. The venue's back open tomorrow. See you next time. Like the video, hype the video, and subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me. See you next time.
Here's what this means for the future of the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark's career trajectory. The Fever are stuck in an impossible position. They have the most valuable player in women's basketball, but they can't or won't build a system that protects her and maximizes her abilities. Stephanie White was brought in because of her Indiana connections and her previous success with the Fever, but her coaching philosophy seems fundamentally incompatible with what Caitlin needs to succeed. White wants to play traditional WNBA basketball. Slow pace, heavy isolation, post-up-oriented offense. Clark thrives in transition, in pick and roll, in pace and space systems that create driving lanes and open threes. The philosophical disconnect has been obvious all season. The Fever rank near the bottom of the league in pace, despite having the fastest player in basketball. They rank in the middle of the pack in three-point attempts despite having the best shooter in the league. The system doesn't fit the talent. And now we're seeing that White also won't protect her best player from physical abuse. That's not a minor issue. That's a fundamental failure of coaching responsibility. Your job as a head coach is to create an environment where your players can succeed. Part of that environment is making sure the officials know that cheap shots and dangerous plays won't be tolerated. White has shown repeatedly that she either doesn't understand this or doesn't care. The front office has to be watching this and asking hard questions. Kelly Krauskopf didn't return to the Fever to watch their generational talent get run out of the league by poor coaching and lack of institutional support. Krauskopf built the Fever's championship teams in 2012. She knows what a winning culture looks like. And this isn't it. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark has options that previous WNBA rookies never had. The European leagues would pay her 7 figures to play overseas. The Big Three has expressed interest in creating a women's division with her as the centerpiece. Unrivaled, the new 3-on-3 league launching in 2025 has offered her an ownership stake and a salary that would dwarf her WNBA earnings. She could walk away from the WNBA tomorrow and make more money playing basketball in a league that would actually protect her. The WNBA seems to think she won't do that. They seem to think she needs them more than they need her. But that calculation is based on old assumptions about women's basketball. Caitlin Clark doesn't need the WNBA to be famous. She doesn't need the WNBA to be wealthy. She doesn't need the WNBA to play professional basketball. What she needs is a league that treats her like the asset she is instead of the problem they wish she wasn't. Every elbow that goes uncalled brings her closer to that realization. Every game where her coach refuses to protect her makes the alternative options more attractive. Every press conference where league officials deflect responsibility instead of addressing the obvious double standard in officiating pushes her further toward the exit. Brittney Griner throwing elbows at Caitlin Clark isn't just about one game or one play. It's a symptom of a league that still hasn't figured out how to handle success. The WNBA spent 25 years begging for mainstream attention. They got it. They spent decades asking for equitable media coverage. They got it. They spent years demanding better pay and working conditions. They got it. All because one player captured the public imagination in a way no women's basketball player ever has. And their response has been to let veterans beat her up while her coach watches and the officials look the other way. The question isn't whether this is sustainable. It obviously isn't. The question is how long it takes for Caitlin Clark to decide she's had enough. Because when that day comes, when she announces she's taking her talents to a league that will actually appreciate them, the WNBA is going to learn a very expensive lesson about the difference between needing someone and acting like you need them. The Fever barely beat the Mercury. Caitlin Clark took multiple elbows to the face. Brittney Griner faced 0 consequences. Stephanie White blamed social media for noticing the dysfunction. And the WNBA continues to pretend everything is fine. It's not fine. It hasn't been fine. And unless something changes dramatically, we're going to look back at this season as the moment the WNBA had everything they ever wanted and chose to throw it away because they couldn't get out of their own way. So here's the question for you. If you were Caitlin Clark, how much longer would you put up with this? How many elbows to the face before you start listening to those overseas offers? How many times does your coach have to refuse to protect you before you realize the organization doesn't have your back? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation is far from over. And if you want to see more breakdowns like this, hit that subscribe button. This is only going to get more interesting as the season continues.